Thanks for joining us. This is Sippin' Tea with Nat and Z. I'm Nat.
And I am Z. Hello, hello.
What's up?
Good morning, good afternoon, konnichiwa, all that good stuff. Today's episode, it's called Woulda, Coulda, Shoulda, Living with Regret. Yeah, that's what it is. And yeah,
Yep.
that is what
It
it is.
truly is.
So, as we have stated before, these episodes that we've been doing, instead of actually giving a tea, we are giving a tea place, a place to enjoy some tea. And so Natalie has picked a very special place for us this Saturday. Saturday. Lord Jesus, it's Sunday. Sorry, this day. It's the Lord's Day.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead, Natalie. What is the place? The tea on the table.
So I originally was going to pick this other spot, but I had the pleasure of going to another place yesterday in Vienna, Virginia, called Lily's Chocolate and Coffee.
Ooh.
So it's Iraqi specialty and decadent chocolate establishment that
Ooh.
has sells specialty chocolates and teas and stuff like that. It's by a sibling. Two siblings opened it up. It's fried pastries with sweet toppings. It's called they serve something called a lakma. It's an Iraqi fried pastry with a sweet topping. It's traditionally served in Iraq with toppings like honey, sugar syrup, and they have their own version of that for a chocolate cake. It was a delightful experience. I went with a bunch of ladies called the Black Girls Corner. They decided to have a tea party yesterday. So
Mm-hmm.
it was full with, gloves, fascinators,
Yeah, I saw your picture with
and
your
all of
blue
that.
shoes and
Yeah,
your
the
yellow dress. I said, okay,
little
color
pop,
pop,
color pop
and
right
your little
there.
lace gloves.
Yes, and the lace
I
gloves
said,
and stuff like that. So everybody came. It was really, really nice. They had cardamom spiced hot tea,
okay. That
Belgium,
sounds delicious.
yeah, imported chocolate mousse cakes. They had we had the cucumber sandwiches. They had macarons and it was really sweet. The setup was nice. Everything in there is pink. And Lux, they have little swings on the wall. They serve different cold teas as well. There's a hibiscus tea that I got, which was tasty. So it was a really nice little experience. It's not a big space,
Mm-hmm.
but they have outdoor space for you to sit. But they do host tea parties in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So we pretty much rented out I mean, we didn't rent it out, but we took up the whole space because it's not a big place.
Right.
But it was really nice, enjoyable. They have a flower wall, so you can take pictures. There's a lot of photo ops in the shop, so it
Mm-hmm.
was very well played. Whoever designed it,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it was really girly and stuff, and the different teapots that we got, and the different teacups everybody had. It was really cute. So it's in Vienna, Virginia. Check it out.
I mean, it looks nice from your pictures. And as an aside, our friend Mikey also added me to that group, the Black Girls Corner. And I
Hmm.
just wanted to say that I actually think that it is a good concept, a great concept of having
Hmm.
Black women get together who just enjoy the company of other Black women
Hmm.
and it be in an environment of just uplifting one another.
Hmm.
I feel like there's a narrative. I think it's more, and I know we sound like old women all the time, especially me, because I'm like, oh, this generation, they're sure whippersnappers. But I've seen a lot of people, younger people, talk about how they don't have friends, they don't have groups
Hmm.
of girlfriends, and I just don't understand that concept. Yeah, sure, you grow apart from people, you grow out of friendships because of just time, distance,
Hmm.
um, uh, interest, whatever,
Life be life.
life be life in. But I just don't get not having a solid core group of friends, even if it's two people that you confide in and you socialize with. I just don't
Hmm.
understand that concept. I don't understand the concept of people saying like, "Oh, she ain't my friend because she slept with my man." Like, what? What
Yeah,
is that?
it's
Um,
scandalous.
and I like the fact that there is a space for Black women to just be.
Yeah, and it's really nice. So, like, most of the women that come there, I mean, it's a yes, it's a group on Facebook, but there are some women that are consistent attendees, but it's not like every time you go, it's different sets of women. There were
Mhm.
multiple ladies there yesterday where it was their first event,
Mhm.
and then she's very intentional about, you know, we get little welcome cards or thank you cards. We get, we had a little glass um, cup made for us that is the pastels and pearls was the theme.
Mhm.
So that's why everyone was in pink and yellow and blue or what have you. So
Oh, that's really nice. Yeah.
each event has a theme. So then there's another one coming up soon called Healing in Your Heels.
Ooh.
Yeah, and then there's one that was like someone with blue. Like there's a theme for each thing, and a lot of times there's activities. Um, but this one in particular was mainly about because it was much more intimate conversing and exchanging information with the people on your left and right
Mhm.
or across from you. And then we were all instructed to write a note of encouragement to black women, to a woman. Obviously, we're all black at there, but to write a note for women of encouragement. You don't have to sign it or anything like that. And she folds them up. And then at the end of the day, at the end of the event, she passes them out with roses to other ladies.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you plan on doing anything with them in terms of like with your business and your brand or
At some point, yeah, because the founder, her name is Crystal, so we have talked about some stuff. They tapped me yesterday to possibly speak on Black women and mental health at their next event,
Mhm.
but that remains to be seen. Or kind of that's just conversation stuff,
Conversation, right.
but that would be a collaboration in one part.
Mhm.
But it's definitely something that I would consider because I'm currently working on planning a retreat next year with another young lady for some black women as well.
Okay.
But for next June,
Mhm.
actually. So those type of environments would lend itself to those type of opportunities. So it would be something I would be interested in looking into
Mhm.
and stuff. So it's just I just thought it was nice, and some people vibe, some people don't, some people come back, some people don't. There's no pressure.
Well, that's good.
Yeah,
I
there's no
am
pressure.
I'm definitely a ambivert. I say this all the time. I'm very extroverted when I'm around my girls, but very introverted in other social settings. I generally and genuinely have a discomfort
Mhm.
in meeting new people. I
Yeah.
just do. Um, and I don't know where that stems from. Honestly, I just don't like the I don't enjoy the experience of
Right.
meeting new people. I don't. And so I could see why some people may find me a little standoffish, and it's not because I think that I am above anybody. It's just I really find a lot of discomfort and anxiety in
Mhm.
meeting new people and being in different spaces. But one of the things, the intentions that I set for myself this year was to push myself into being more um open
Mhm.
to experiences and people. Um and I'm trying.
Yeah. But I mean, at least there's an effort.
But yeah, so when I was put into that group, I was like, "Why am I in this group? Because this is beyond my comfort zone."
Right.
But I said, "You know what? But this is one of the intentions you set for yourself this year, Zarifa." So if anybody's interested, it's called Black Girls Corner, and it is a Facebook group.
Mhm.
We know the admin, so tell them we sent you.
Right.
And you don't go there with negativity, only
Yeah, they
positivity,
don't.
love, and light, and you know,
Yeah, because if definitely I've been made aware that if those type of vibes are coming through, then certain people just don't get invited back,
mm-hmm,
or they're not allowed. I won't say allowed to come back, but she's really big on the. And here's a kicker: so the founder is an introvert.
mm.
Yeah.
Well,
And
that's good,
the founder's an introvert, and she was intentional about this because she realized for those other women that may be introverts, they're not going to necessarily go out and find friends, so to
right,
speak, or
right,
circles.
right,
So she tried to create rather intimate settings. So I went to one other event and her mom was there too. Really sweet lady. And they're usually maybe, the- I think max 20 people
Mhm.
are at these events. I mean, depending on where the venue is.
Mhm.
Um, and the prices can stem from like 80 to 100 to close to $200 depending on the
What type
event
of is yeah.
and the venue, because, for DC, that's not bad, I don't think, because it's usually a full meal and,
Mhm.
drinks, and then you still get a little gift, and then an afternoon of networking. There were a couple, I met some sorors there yesterday as well. Then you find out other people who have a lot of ladies who are in it have just moved to the area
Mm.
or moved to the area during the pandemic.
Mm.
So now
That's
they,
very good then. That's a good
yeah, they've
okay.
been able to expand and make connections and stuff like that. So, but her themes are very intentional and thoughtful, and they're different colors, and sometimes they go up to 40 people depending, or more. It really depends on the venue
Okay.
and stuff. But yeah,
Well,
so
that's
it's
good. Okay, so Black Girls Corner, if you're interested. Um, that so that will give us I'm going into the hot tea. I don't hey, what to say? What to say? It's been a interesting 2 weeks. I don't know. The Met Gala was held, and listen, I love fashion. I love the houses. I am not a label or brand whore, but I do have specific brands that I gravitate towards more. I have brands now that before my younger years were out of my financial reach that have now become staples
right.
in my wardrobe or in my wheelhouse, so to speak. But I say this knowing that I am not at a Rihanna level, a Beyonce level. I am not at a Naomi level. I am not at any level. My black ass.
You're on your own level.
Listen, a roach got invited to the Met Gala, and they probably there was a roach on the Met steps, the gala steps. And was this pre Elon Musk Twitter? That roach probably would have had its own Twitter
It
handle.
would have
Um,
probably.
but yeah, so a roach was invited to the Met Gala before me. So
What was he wearing?
all black,
Oh,
in
nice,
ode to Karl Lagerfeld.
nice, nice.
And so I was not impressed with really at anybody. I personally did not like Rihanna's. I mean, everybody was gagging for Rihanna's outfit. It kind of reminded me of a
Really?
top of a cupcake, like the frosting on top of a
Yeah.
wedding cupcake. I just didn't like it. Um, I did like Chloe Bailey, her outfit. I did. I enjoyed it. Quinta Brunson usually is my go-to during these seasons of fashion, and I did not particularly care for her outfit.
Mhm.
I just think it didn't fit well in the bust area, but there were other images that I saw that I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. Her hair was fantastic.
Mhm.
Um, I'm trying to think of who else stood out to me. Um, yeah, that's all I got. I will say that, uh,
Janelle Monae was on fire.
yeah, she was. I'm just gonna say Janelle Monae's after outfit at her party. I was like,
Yeah.
"Go ahead, sis." That
Yes.
body is between her and Meg the Stallion. I go back and forth between like if God blessed
Yeah.
me and Ashanti. If he had ever blessed me with those types of bodies, it just he knew better.
But the fact that I appreciated that was like, oh, she's like a real body, like
Yes,
for
she
real,
is like
a
she looks
real
good.
real.
She
She
looks
looks
good.
really good.
I cannot. Sis looks good.
And I think it's so funny though that she got so much flack when she first came out on the
Oh yeah.
market for
Mhm.
everything was buttoned up, or you never saw any part of her skin.
They said she looked like a James Bond villain all the time.
Not a James Bond villain, but I could see why. But I
So
appreciate, and she was very intentional about not doing that because you guys are going to understand my talent, and then I'll do what I want with
and
it.
didn't do what and that was a genius move. I will say the men though, I liked the men more. And it's hard, right? Because men don't have a lot of things to choose from,
Hmm.
really. But the men really did stand out, I will say for me. Puffy looked really good. Um oh, what is his name? It kind of it slips my mind right now. Well, I'll come back to it because I it's his face is right there.
Hmm.
Idris looked good. It's a couple people that really looked good. But I will say there was some controversy because if you know Karl Lagerfeld,
Mhm.
he's kind of oh, Jeremy. Yes, the guy with the Karl Lagerfeld train. His name is Jeremy. Oh my gosh. His name is Jeremy. He's with Ryan Adams. That's his name, right? The guy that does like all the American Horror Stories,
Mhm.
the Pose.
Girl, don't get
Yes.
me the line.
I think that's his name. His name is Jerry Pope. Jeremy Pope. Jeremy Pope. Jeremy Pope. That's his name. He looked good. Jared Leto came dressed
A
as
cap.
I forgot what the cat's name is, Capetto or something like that. I
Uh-huh.
forgot. As Karl Lagerfeld's cat, so did Doja Cat. There's talks that she's probably not going to be invited back again because one of the strictest rules that Anna Wintour has is that you do not smoke in the museum because it's in a museum. You do not smoke, and she was vaping, so she's probably not going to get invited back.
Um,
Um, but Karl Lagerfeld is a very controversial
mhm.
designer.
Isn't his like it's his tribute something for him
It
this
was,
year?
it was, and a lot of people were, kind of like upset because um why would you do that um before Andre
Hmm?
Talley? Like why would you
Oh,
cuz Andre Talley was pretty much the backbone to Vogue,
yeah.
okay? Um and him and Anna had a falling out, and I think him and actually Carl and Andre were friends at one point, and then they had a falling out, and he never knew why. Like he never, but he said Carl would do that. Like I read his book, and he was like sometimes he would just like, you know, kind of
Like
fall out.
ghost people?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Um,
well, you know.
but
Mm.
and I think maybe was it Carl Lagerfeld? Maybe it wasn't. Let me not speak on it. But anyway,
Uh-huh.
that was the Met Gala. Um, Then yesterday, I saw that supposedly Usher and Chris Brown got into a physical altercation in Vegas this weekend.
Them physically, or was it the people in their crew?
Physically, them that they beat up Usher, like they beat down Usher. But I saw Usher in like some videos today. He looks fine, and it was for Usher's lovers friends
Yeah, friends and
festival
lovers
thing, friends
thing,
and
yeah.
lovers, yeah. And Chris Brown still performed and Usher looked fine. So I don't know. Apparently it was supposed to be over. Apparently, from what the reports are saying, Chris Brown was high and he confronted Tiana Taylor because there was a Grammy performance or American Music Award performance that Chris Brown was supposed to do in tribute to Michael Jackson. It got canceled. Tiana Taylor was supposed to be in this. This is all allegedly. She
Mhm.
pulled out, and he felt disrespected that she pulled out because he feels like that was part of the reason why they decided to cut the whole performance. And so
Mhm.
he confronted her at the birthday party and was calling her all kinds of bitches and stuff. So then Usher came over to kind of calm him down, and then that escalated to outside. And apparently, supposedly, they jumped Usher, but Usher looked fine. The reports initially said he had a broken nose, bloody face, broken ribs. Usher was looking like unbothered. So I don't know how true the story is.
Mhm.
Nobody has denied it from either camp.
Right.
No one has come out and say cap or whatever these young kids say. So I don't know, is it on brand for Chris Brown? Yeah, yeah. Um,
A little
and
bit.
and I feel like, if it might not have escalated to the point that people were saying, but there probably was a disagreement.
Might have
And
been a
Usher
tussle.
actually, yeah, from what I understood, Usher actually threw the birthday party for Chris Brown. It was a
That's what I
surprise.
thought.
It was a skate party. So, and Usher is so unproblematic in terms of confrontation. I've never in
Those
my
type of things.
history, yeah, in those types of situations, I've never seen him even confront anybody or get angry. So to see that, to hear that is just, if this happened and Chris Brown actually did do this to Usher, I'm telling you now it's over for Chris Brown. Like we don't, unfortunately nobody gives a shit about women when they get beat up, right? But when somebody who's a man that is quote unquote unproblematic in that kind of a situation and people so love Usher and he is like an old head, there's a lot of people are like, if that happens, I'm really done with Chris around. So we'll see. Where there's smoke, there's fire. So, um, and I think that's all the tea I have. I don't. There's probably others. Oh, the Writers Guild
Oh, the
Association is on
strike.
strike, and I support them. But I'm just letting y'all know now. Be prepared for some shitty shows if this writer strike does not get
Resolved anytime
resolved as
soon.
soon.
It's the first
And
time in like over 15 years or something.
the last one was in 2007, and I'm gonna let you know, like, that's the reason why certain shows that we loved really just fell off the face of the map. Like Girlfriends, if you remember, didn't really have a it didn't end. It was just like the last episode. It didn't really have like a tied up loose ends.
Hmm.
And that's one of the reasons why. Because there just was
I think that's when the reality show was ushering
yeah, the
in.
reality shows came in because you don't really need writers really for that. And the
No.
thing is, things that are in production now, people are saying, well, it's in production, the script is already written. Yeah, but they usually have writers on set to tell people what the voice sounds like. This is how it
Hmm.
should be read. This is the emotion it should evoke. Directors can't do that in terms of the words. They can do that in terms of the act, but not the
Right.
words and so yeah, if it's not resolved, trust and believe it's going to be a dark day in Hollywood. And I would think that the people who hold the power would be like, okay, we just came out of this pandemic where we lost so much money,
Uh huh.
where we're still trying to recover. People still don't want to go to the movies. You really don't need this right now. But money makes the world go around, and the people with the money make it so that, well, I'm rich and you're not, so I
Right.
don't care about you being able to afford a house or adequate health insurance or
Right.
be able to take your kids or put them into daycare. So they don't want to pay for streaming revenues, which, hello, now AI is on board, and people's like, well, if you don't want to write, we'll
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
artificial intelligence to do
To
it. It's
write.
just a lot going on right now. Technology has always moved faster than regulations and the law, so
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. I stand with the writers, but we'll see what happens. And that's all the hot tea I have. So,
All right. All right. All right. So we're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll jump right into our tea time segment. And we're back. So woulda, coulda, shoulda. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. Living with regret. I'm sure this is a topic that resonates with many of people. Many, many,
hmm
many people. Probably daily, sometimes hourly, sometimes by the second. Just saying. So what is regret? It's the emotion of wishing one had made a different decision in the past because the consequences of the decision one made were unfavorable. It's usually related to a perceived opportunity. So a lot of times regret, when people hear it, it's accompanied by guilt, embarrassment, a lot of self-blame, like I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have done that. What if I had acted differently? Woulda, coulda, shoulda. What if I
hmm
had this opportunity? What if I didn't say that? I could have approached that person a different way. I could have understood where that person was coming from. And you can't go back in time, and you don't know how to ever answer those questions. You're going to sit and marinate on it, ruminate, and sit here and be, kind of get, that's, I think a lot of times people get lost in their own head and
hmm
get stuck, and wondering what could have happened. And, something, even when, you really could have done nothing about it. Like, you
Right.
could sit there and be like, the situation went how it went. This wasn't like choose your own adventure, so to speak. Like, just shit happened, you know? Choose your own adventure, but this wasn't it, so to speak. And
Right.
there's nothing that you could have done to make or influence what you thought would be the right choice. Um, it doesn't necessarily prove that you did anything wrong. It's just a complicated feeling about your experience. So what causes regret? There's a lot of time folks are like, well, I could have, should have.
Right.
If I would have bought that lottery ticket, I would be a millionaire right now and be on
mm,
David Bromstead's show.
could be,
My
but
lottery dream home.
it could be. But I think so. When we did the research for this, we saw that there were the six biggest regrets tend to involve or tend to be surrounded or involved with the following: education. So a lot of times it's missed educational opportunities. Maybe I should have went to grad school. Maybe I should have went to law school. Maybe I shouldn't have went to law school.
Mhm.
Maybe I should have studied a little more in college. Maybe I should have studied a little bit more in high school so I could have gotten into Stanford. It's a
Mhm.
lot of things, right? Career, failure to seize the moment. Maybe I should have applied for that job. Maybe I should have taken that low paying internship because of where it could have led me.
Mhm.
Romance, missed romantic opportunities. Man, that person really was feeling me, and for whatever reason, I was stuck in my own head. Um, or the opposite. I rushed into that too soon. Look what it caused me. Look at the heartache I've. So those things, and I think those tend to be the biggest out of the six. Those are the biggest three that I feel
Mhm.
that most of us have had some type of regret surrounding. But there are other things that the other three things that I think people don't necessarily think of in terms of regret is parenting. Parenting yourself, parenting your child the way you were parented, or the way you parented your children, your stepchildren, your bonus
Mhm.
kids. Self-improvement. A lot of people don't I don't think about self-improvement as an area that you could have some regret in, but you could. Maybe I should have gone to therapy a little bit earlier instead of thinking that it was just junk science.
Mhm.
Leisure. Maybe this is like, I would say, if there's a top 3, this would be in the top 4, because I think people do think I should have taken that trip.
Mhm.
I should have spent more time with my friends and my family. I
Mhm.
should have invested in that, you know, getaway, or
Right.
enjoyed myself a little bit more while I was there instead of being so caught up in all this other shit.
Right. For sure. So, when you're looking through those things, it can, appear that, when you're saying these things, it's like the regret can last for some folks a lifetime,
Mhm.
some folks just a season.
Mhm.
And then it can have a lasting effect on where you are in that particular point of your life.
Mhm.
It's a very real reaction, you can't be changed and you can't take it back, and unfortunately it's one of those things you just can't seem to shake, which is why I think regret is, people hear it and it's either like oh man, because it's just you cannot get this feeling out of your head. It's an intrusive negative emotion. And it can last, like, like I said, for minutes, a lifetime, the day, or whatever. And you're just like, okay, let's keep it moving. There's different types of regret. There's instant and and delayed regret. Some of the topics that we just talked about, what causes it in these respective areas. Um, like you might feel it instantly when we accidentally say something to a friend and it hurts their feelings, and you were like, "Oh, I shouldn't have said that." In
Mhm.
that moment,
Mhm.
in that
Mhm.
moment, like you feel like, "Oh, damn, I really shouldn't have said that." Um, and or something after an event. Let's say you took a test that you didn't study for, and you took a test that you really should have studied for, and you didn't, and you come back and you're like, "Damn, I should have studied harder. I could have got a C plus.
Mhm.
Now I got a D." Or something like that, something to that
Right.
effect, but depending what your goals are, whatever your academic goals are. Um, but, it can be pushed out to years. When you dropped out of school, you didn't finish, you didn't quit that job sooner that you could have. And then there's different impacts. There's a negative impact. It can push you to change your actions. You've made poor decisions and you don't want to make it again. So you think about and you're intentional about how you change your behavior moving forward and hopefully improve it and the circumstances that can come out of it. Um, there's higher levels when regret is associated with higher levels of cortisol. For those that know, cortisol is what causes us to have belly fat,
Yes,
among
a
other,
stress
and
hormone.
stress
Mhm.
hormone, right? And it can perpetuate itself and manifest in your life in so many different ways. It can show up as depression, hopelessness, and suicidal ideation. A lot of individuals, when they have suicidal ideation and, in their notes and stuff like that, a lot of the times some of those notes speak directly to a regrettable action in
Mhm.
some way, shape, or form.
Mhm.
And even the taking of their own life in this regard is seen as a regret. Like, I'm sorry, I should have done this, this, and this, but I don't think I deserve to be here, or something to that effect. But it could be a driving force for how it shows up in suicidal ideation, so to
Mhm.
speak. Um, and then there's thinking about your past, and you sit there and you unfortunately torment yourself and think about it over and over and over, and it really can bear a negative impact on your mental health severely, causing anxiety, post traumatic stress, obsessive compulsive disorder. For those individuals that may have had a particular childhood experience that they got in trouble for not cleaning the bathroom as well as their parent or whomever said they should. Now, growing up as a regret, it manifests itself as OCD because they just clean, 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 clean
Right.
because they don't know how to process or they don't want it to happen or be scolded or not think they're good enough. Like it can be very pervasive and
Mhm.
show up so many different ways. On the flip side, though, there's also a positive impact for some regret. It can be healthy in some regards as far as helping you do a self-reflection and think about, look, I don't want that to happen again. So let me figure out how I can improve my behavior
Yes, yes.
going forward, for a positive outcome. It could improve your decision skills, decision making skills. It can motivate you to do different things. Like if you're overweight or you ate all those cookies because of something, and now you're like, I'm not gonna do this anymore. I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna go walk for 25 minutes today. That's a regrettable action of them cookies, but now you're like, "You know what? Imma go out and go walk this off. Walk it
Yes,
out. Imma go
yes.
walk it out.
Walk it out.
Walk it out."
Walk it
Right?
out.
And it can also it strengthen your values and give you some more self-awareness of how you move and how you interact with folks. It can also inspire gratitude because you feel a deeper appreciation for what you have and what you have
Mm.
done
Mm.
because they're like, man, if I didn't do X, Y, and Z, or if I did do, I took my spouse for granted, I took my friends for granted, but now I'm making a turn and making sure that they know they're appreciated and loved and treasured, and I'm going to make sure I'm consistent with that.
Yes,
So in that
ma'am.
regard, it can totally pivot,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
know. Then there's the age as we get older and how we're like, we hear oftentimes older people say, I wish I would have done da 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 back in the day. I should have gone to this trip. I should have, embraced this part of my life when I was younger. When they say the youth is wasted on the young, that is a statement that I think is derived from regret from older people
Yes,
and
I
where they
say,
are in their
mhm.
age, right?
Mhm.
As far as a college student may be more likely to regret a romantic decision that they made in college, and it may have some lasting effects till now. Like
Yeah.
sometimes when people get married, um, let's say early, because of who they have no other exposure but to the person that they're with.
Mhm.
And then they come out and they finally get exposed to the world and they're like, what the hell was I
Yeah.
thinking?
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily a slight to that person, but that particular decision may have stunted their growth in some way because they've only known that person.
Yeah.
And they don't know any other experiences that could further cultivate and enhance their life and decision making and view of life that they may have moved a different way. A young person may focus on relationships, and an older person may focus more on their career and why I shouldn't have stayed in that job all those years and didn't even get a pension. And I gave that job my whole life, and then they, screwed me over.
Mm.
And it really, you'd make different decisions at different ages.
And I think like we've been talking about, we are intentional about the topics that we bring to the table. This actually coincides a lot with our last episode, which was being bitter, right?
Hmm.
Because being bitter, ho-
Comes from
co-
regret,
it does. And
or can come
or
from
can
regret.
come from
Can come
regret.
from
There, I
regret.
would say, like, you can regret something, and then that regret turns into bitterness. Because,
Right.
like you said, if you're more likely as an adult to regret educational decisions, career decisions, right?
Hmm.
Then you'll become bitter in your job,
Yep.
right? Especially if you see other people getting those
Advancing.
advancements that you felt that you missed,
Yeah, I think we
right?
all see that in the government where we work.
Mm, mm,
There's always, and it's not say that it's not in other workplaces, but in the
mm-hmm.
government, depending on how people came in, they may have come in through high school, college, and they've been there forever, and then they see new people come in that are younger than them, and then they're their boss,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they feel some type of way, but those opportunities were still available to them. They just chose not to embrace them, and now they may regret it, and it
Right.
turns out and shows up as bitterness.
Yeah, I'll say that. So let me ask you this. Do you currently have any regrets?
Yes,
Do you have Are there a lot of regrets that you have, or do you have a few regrets?
few.
Okay. Do you feel like those regrets kind of do you ruminate over those regrets?
Oh,
Like, do
yeah, for
you,
sure.
you know,
It's a
maybe
choose
I'm
your it's
weird.
like really the choose your own adventure. Like, I have a choose your own adventure in my head sometimes. Like, what would my life have looked like had I accepted the fellowship I got to Harvard instead of staying here and going to a fellowship here in DC?
Right.
Like I literally like tried to map out, would I still be living in Boston? Would I become a doctor like I initially intended and gone to medical school and all this other stuff? Like I have those thoughts a lot only because of, I think, to that point, like, depending where you are at a particular time in your life
Mhm.
dictates how much you ruminate over certain decisions
Mhm.
and where they intersect. Like
Right.
if how I enjoy my job and what I do career wise. There was a point where I was like, okay, well, not the when I decided to change where I was working,
Mhm.
and I was happy for the opportunity, and then I was like, I should have done this. My career would be in a completely different place.
Right.
So then, if you're in that career now, you look back and you're like, "Hmm, is this where I wanted to end up, or this is where I need to?" Like, you sit and kind of think about how you live now
Right.
and what you do. But yeah, I mean, I have a few, but sometimes I'm like, it is what it is.
So, I think I'm so let me I've dealt with shame, right? Shame
Mhm.
around decisions that I've made, or shame around ways that I may have acted in the past
Mhm.
towards friends or family or whatever. But that shame doesn't always translate to regret, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, and I think for me, because I dealt with some harsh things at a younger age than some people,
Mhm.
my regret doesn't live for very long periods of time.
Right.
I don't ruminate on them. They may come back up at a later
Excuse
date,
me.
but I don't ruminate on them, right? And I try to use my experiences with some of the things that may have led to some regret to kind of guide other people, whether you want to listen to me or not, right?
Mhm.
Whether you want to take my advice or not, because you know how I am. I'm one of those people that don't want to give an unsolicited advice, right? I don't just
Mhm.
come and tell you this is what I think you should do. It's just not me. Why? Because I don't want you to give me unsolicited advice. If I didn't ask you, then don't
Right.
tell me,
Right.
right? Sometimes I come to people just to talk about how I'm
Invent.
feeling and vent, but I don't need you to interject and put your spin on it. And it's not
Right.
because I don't value what you're saying. It's because I
In
don't
that
want to get
moment.
right. I don't need to get into a space where I'm not relying on my ability to make decisions, and I'm using other people to make decisions for me,
Right.
if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I personally need to take accountability for all of my actions. And I don't want to have a scapegoat by saying, well, I only did it because you told me to do it. You
Right.
understand what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
part of my therapy journey that
Right.
that is something that I needed to do for myself. And I've always been that way. And I continue to be that way. But anyway, one of the things I say I regretted was the way that my relationship with my mother was. Um, and part of it was just teenage angst, young adult angst. There were other things that if I think, I not even think, I know, had my mother and I been able to have a relationship today, because of course if she hadn't passed away, we would have been able to work through, because I would have been in a place where I would have been able to have conversations with her about some of the things that I felt, right?
Right. Right.
Um but I can't do anything about that, right? I can't bring my mother back to life.
Mhm.
Um I can't, change the way that things played out.
Right.
Right? They played out the way that they played out. All I can do is do better. So how do I do better? I do better by the way I parent my child. I do better by telling people who are having falling outs with their family members, like,
Mhm.
look, if you don't want to talk, if trust me, I understand cutting people off completely, but if this isn't somebody that you want out of your life, then you need to do what is necessary to heal that relationship,
Yeah.
because when that person's not here, you're not going to be able to do that. And then that is going to be in a regret. And here's the thing. There are people in my life that I know that they cannot handle regret at all. It is
Yeah.
not something that they are able to live with, deal with, or you move past, right? And so when I have interactions with those people, I say to them, look, trust me when I tell you, this is not something that you are going to be able to shoulder. So you need to fix it now,
Yeah.
because if you do not fix it now, this is going to have a lasting
It's
impact on you as you move further on in life.
right.
Because regret is one of those things that you can tell, depending on but the people in your life, you can tell who can deal with it and who can't.
Yes,
I
that's
know people
true.
in my life that can deal with it and people who cannot. I know it. I see it.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm
And it
saying?
shows up in different
It
ways, whether
does,
they're aware of it or not.
whether they're aware of it or not. And there are people who cannot live with regret, like you said, and they have mental breakdowns and they have depression and they have anxiety and they're trying to figure
Mhm.
out where this all this comes from. And it's like, because you're living with a ton of regret that you just won't let go.
Right.
And regret is one of those things that we all, I don't know anybody who, no, there's nobody on this face of this earth that can tell me that they have not experienced a bout of regret. I don't want to hear that. You cannot tell me that. Everybody has experienced a bout of regret. Now, the intensity, the level
True.
of it, it's different,
Yeah.
right? There are some people who may never regret, like, that live their life like, I do what I do and it is what it is.
Bam, bam, bam,
Right?
bam.
But there
Didn't
are
get
times
it.
when you may have eaten something and you get the bubble guts and you're like, damn, I shouldn't have ate that. That's regret.
Exactly. That's
That's regret,
regret.
right? You wake up with a bad hangover. Damn, I shouldn't have drank all that last night. That is a
Yeah.
regret. You know what I mean? And yeah, most people can get through those. Those are those single moment in time regrets, right? Like, damn, I shouldn't have ate that. I won't. And some people learn from it.
Right.
Other people like me do not.
I think everybody has a different learning curve because it depends on where you are in the level of acceptance
Well,
of
true. That's
or
true too.
acknowledgement of, oh damn, this is why I'm processing the way I'm processing,
Right,
which
right.
takes a while for some to get there because some folks may not even realize that's what they're feeling.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. There are some people who just don't understand that. I feel like regret is definitely one of those things that regret and shame, because they go hand in hand, that does lead to a lot of things.
Yeah,
Addiction.
addiction.
Um,
Hmm.
it leads to just, I feel like
Erratic behavior.
it does. I feel like my uncle, for example, if I had empathy left for him, I would
Hmm.
I would be empathetic, right, to him. I don't, but I understand that a lot of his self-destructive nature is rooted in shame and regret.
Hmm.
But what I do also understand is, instead of coming out of it, you continuously do things that you regret.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Like, you, and in some of the same similar situations, if that makes sense. Like,
Yeah.
you regret the way you treated somebody while they were alive and then they die.
Yep.
And instead of treating the people in your life better, you continue to treat people
Perpetuate
like
it.
shit. So
Yeah.
then somebody else dies. Not only did you regret the first person, the way you treated the first person that died, now you regret the way you treat the second person that died. So
There's no corrective
there's no
action.
corrective action. And then another person dies. And now you're really regretting it, because you're like, oh my God, I treated this person like this, and I treated this person like this, and I treated this person like this. And it's just like, at what point, some people can't ever come out of that.
Right. It's a cycle.
It is. I feel
'Cause
like
then
my,
they feel guilty, they feel regret,
oh,
and then they
guilt.
can't
Yes,
and they
yes.
don't know how to move to that next phase of corrective action.
They
So,
don't.
like, there's different phases, and so in the field of psych and behavioral health, there's different phases of when you contemplate your actions. And
Mhm,
a lot of times there's a place we call pre-contemplative
mhm.
stage where you sit and you think about it, and but you never pull the trigger to actually execute that stage of behavior change
Right.
because you just keep doing it, but you haven't taken enough time for whatever reason. There could be a host of reasons because you don't have the tools, you don't
Mhm.
know how to ask for help,
Right.
maybe you're just an asshole and you don't care about anybody's feelings, so you just keep doing it. I mean,
Right.
it could be that. And then
It could.
maybe, because it's just some people like it is what it is, deal with it, suck it up, move on. They'll be all
Yeah.
right. without regard for the impact that has on the people you're working with or dealing with.
That's
And it
true.
and it doesn't impact them enough or resonate with them enough to change behavior.
I agree. I agree. And then I feel like I agree, but then I also feel like there's like different what I'm realizing about people, and I realized this about people this week. There are people who want to change.
Mhm.
There are people who want to change and don't know how to change.
Right.
And there are people who just don't give a fuck.
Right.
Excuse my language.
Exactly.
There are just people, and I
Right.
tried
None
not to,
given. They don't
yeah.
have none given.
And I tried to think about that, and I was like, no, there are people, no. I have come to the realization that there are people who just don't care
Mhm.
for whatever reason.
Narcissists. We talked
Yeah.
about that. Some
Yes.
people, narcissists, just don't care what their actions
But not
impact
even just
others.
narcissists, right? There's sociopaths.
Yes,
There are
sociopaths, all those, yeah.
like people who just are lacking
Mhm.
mentally for whatever reason, right?
Mhm.
And I feel those people are just beyond reproach, and you just need to leave those people where they are.
Right.
I feel like the people who want to change just don't know how to, or they
Mhm.
let shame drive them from changing.
Right. The
Because a lot of
shame
times,
thing.
yeah, because a lot of times I feel like people who live with regret that don't know how to come up out of that don't know how to come out of it a lot because there's a shame attached to it. And then they
Right.
don't want to deal with the shame of it, right?
Right.
So, for example, if you're someone who dropped out of college because you got pregnant, right?
Mhm.
And you couldn't finish because you got pregnant. I don't think that that's something to feel shame over, or if you have regret over it, you should let it ruminate forever. But there are some people who let it ruminate, right? And
Right.
now they're in a job that's not paying well, right? And
Mhm.
they have a lot of regret about getting pregnant at such a you know getting pregnant or not taking the steps to prevent the pregnancy so that they could have stayed in school.
Mhm.
And then, but they don't want to say that because there's a lot of shame attached to that.
Right.
So they instead become either bitter people
Mhm.
or they become very depressed, anxious people,
Mhm.
right?
Or resentful
Or resentful.
because they see other people doing it, but they haven't dealt with their shame, so they don't know how to get past it.
Exactly. And that's unfortunate
Mhm.
because I was watching what was a movie I was watching? Luther.
Mhm.
So Luther has a movie. If you Luther is a show, Idris Alba. It's a BBC. It was a
Mhm.
series, and they had a movie. So there was a movie, and basically the movie's premise, and I don't know if I talked about this already, is that there were hackers that were hacking into people's computer,
Mhm.
and they were picking the most shameful moments. They were able to capture the most shameful moments in people's lives and
Mm.
hold that over their head to basically force them to do things
Right.
for them, right? To
Mhm.
basically, what do you call that?
Duress? No.
Keep them hostage, or like
Blackmail.
basically, yeah, blackmail, to
Blackmail.
blackmail them into doing things. And a lot of the stuff wasn't very shameful, but it was
Mhm.
shameful to them.
Right.
And shame is one of those, like, again, it's just like shame, some things, like, instead of just coming out and saying what it is, getting past it and moving past it, a lot of people tend to hold that in.
Right.
And then that's when the regret sits in
Investors.
and festers to create other things.
Right.
And it's sad, but one of the things that we do here on this podcast is try to tell you what the thing is, what negative impacts it can have, or even positive impacts,
Right.
and then try to get you to come up out of it, right? How do you come up out of it? We've shown you how you can work through shame, how
Mhm.
you can work through bitterness, but how can you live with regret? How can you move past the feelings of regret? Well, one, it's okay. It's okay to have regrets, right? And we've talked about it. Natalie mentioned it, that it sometimes can be beneficial. But if you are a type of person who just ruminates on regret or find yourself having persistent unproductive thoughts that spiral, um you have to find ways to shift your attention somewhere else.
Right.
So how can you do that? How can you press pause, right? How can you, once those intrusive unconstructive thoughts start to seep in, what can you do to fix it? One is practice mindfulness. We talk about practicing mindfulness always.
Yeah.
Focus on the moment instead of getting caught up. right? It's not easy, and it's definitely something you have to practice. But mindfulness, I find, is something that definitely helps me get out of my head, right?
Mhm.
Focus your energy elsewhere. As soon as you start having those intrusive thoughts, those I regret doing this, I regret doing that, try engaging into something else. Read a book, journal, right? Watch some 30 minutes of something funny really
Right.
quick just to kind of get your mind out of it. Exercise. So you regrets. You had some regrets. If you regret eating that cookie, okay, well get up like Natalie said and go take a walk.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
I
or get a
regret.
punching bag
Yeah,
or a
yeah,
pillow, whatever.
yeah. You
You know.
know, do something.
Yeah.
Journal about it. We talk about this all the time. Get
Journaling
a
is
journal.
big.
This one thing I definitely said I was going to go back into doing, which was when I wake up in the morning, being intentional about writing my three, like the three things that I want to accomplish for the day, my intentions for the day, for the week. I used
Mhm.
to do that Monday, get up. Okay, here are my intentions for the week. Here's my intention for the day. Here's what I'm happy about. Here's what brings me joy. You
Right.
know, and I think if you do that, I think it does help you stay on track with and keep your mind from just spiraling into these
Right.
periods of despair and
It's a
distress.
different way to focus. Like I think the impact of mindfulness and journaling and gratitude, it helps you distract you from the gloom and doom that may be overtaking you
Yeah.
and
Yeah, yeah.
regret, you know. It
Absolutely.
really
Absolutely.
forces you to be like, well, okay, well, let me think about the good stuff. It's a method of distraction that can
Mhm.
end up being a habit, which is a good thing.
Right. I feel like those are good ways to live with it, right? Because there's some of you there's just like, look, I got to live with it and
Right.
I don't know how. Well, here's how. But then there's some tips that, you can help you also move forward. Let yourself feel it. Sometimes you just have to let yourself feel it.
Yeah,
And I
sit
think
with
that
it.
you have to sit with it. Sometimes people don't want to. And I think that that's why the regret tends to be more long lasting than temporary because you don't even want to sit with it. Like sometimes you just got to feel the feels and then move past it, right?
Right. That's really hard.
It is. And I'm not saying that it's easy because
Yeah.
sometimes sitting with it, it causes you to have to look at yourself. And a lot of people don't want to
Yeah.
do that, especially if it's something that's really traumatic. Like if you were
Yeah.
somebody that hit, like, let's say you were being careless, you were texting while driving and you crashed and you killed somebody. That is a regret you're going to have to live with for the rest of your life.
Mhm. Nothing you can do to change it.
And there's nothing you can do to change it. And, but I don't know. You have to sit with it and avoid.
Redirect those energies
Yeah.
elsewhere.
And for the most part, having regrets doesn't make you a bad or foolish person. It's a common emotion, and sometimes you
Mhm.
just have to feel it and accept it. Like
Yeah.
I had this regret, and I can't change it. It doesn't mean to be flippant about it. Like
True.
some
That's a
people,
key point though.
yeah,
That's
don't
not
be
a,
flippant about it.
well, I can't do nothing about it, you
Like
know.
what you want me to do? Okay, so
Right.
I did this. Okay, what you
And
want me to do?
right.
Don't be flippant about it.
Being flippant
Um,
is just not, yeah, that ain't it.
And there are some people who are very flippant about it.
Yes.
Um, Sometimes you have to draw a very positive so draw something positive from the experience, right? So, you have a friend who passed away and you regret not spending more time with them. Well, make that regret inspire you to
Mhm.
spend more time with the family and friends that you have left.
Exactly.
My mother passing away actually is the catalyst for why I am so intentional about making time for all of you guys,
Mhm.
making sure that we spend time together, making sure that we take trips together.
Mhm.
This whole summer, we've been doing activities together in our tribe that is actually something that flows out of my regret for not having a better relationship with my mother when she was
Mhm.
alive. It just
Mhm.
is. It's something that I understood at a very early age.
Right.
Why I'm so intentional and mindful about nurturing the friendships I have because I didn't. And I realized the reason
Mhm.
why I was so flippant and cavalier about friendships previously, I will say like in my late teens, early 20s, is because I was like, well, everybody dies. Everybody's gonna leave. Why am I getting attached to any of you bitches? I don't
Mhm.
care.
Right.
Just walk out of my life. Don't be friends with me anymore.
Deuces.
Don't do this, do that. And it was based in this really need for that.
Right.
But I didn't want to acknowledge it, right? I didn't want to acknowledge the regret that I had for not cultivating or not fixing the relationship with my mother at the time. But to be honest, once I figured it out, I didn't have the tools.
Right.
I didn't have the tools to do that.
So how did you figure out what the tools were?
Therapy.
There you go. See how that comes back full
Therapy.
circle, y'all?
Therapy. I had an awareness. Like, what are you doing? I think
Mhm.
towards the end of my 20s, I was like, what are you doing?
Right.
What are you doing? What are you doing, Zarifa? What? What is this?
Mhm.
What are you doing? Because this ain't it. My 20s were a fucking mess, okay? Excuse my language. They were. And anybody who knows me can tell me that they were. And I am not going to disagree with you. My
Right.
20s were a nightmare, a mess, a mess,
Mhm.
a total mess, okay? It just was.
Right.
When I hit about 30, that's when I started to get my mind
Right.
right and get my life together and kind of
Right.
figure out what are you doing?
But the awareness you had to even ask that, I think harkens back to what we said at the beginning of the podcast when we were talking about how some females do not have female friends.
Mhm.
And I think there's a lack of awareness. So there's a lack of awareness and a lack of understanding what tools they need
Mhm.
to move in the right direction to
Mhm.
cultivate those things.
Yeah,
There's no
there isn't.
connection for
But
them.
there's also, which is one of the other tips to help you move forward that a lot of us aren't really aware of, is being self-compassionate. A lot of us
Hmm.
don't give our own self compassion.
True.
We don't know how
Which
to
some of us are
forgive.
too hard ourselves.
We don't know how to forgive ourselves. We don't know
Hmm.
how to remind ourselves of our strengths. We don't know how to practice loving kindness, meditation. We
Hmm.
don't know how to take care of our basic needs. We don't know how to just be compassionate to
Right.
ourselves. We don't know how to accept ourselves in
That's a
our
learned
full.
behavior to a
It
point.
is. Accepting yourself is accepting everything. A lot of us only want to accept the good. We don't want to accept the bad parts of ourselves.
Right.
I had to learn how to accept every single part of me, the good, the bad, the ugly. This is one I'm telling you. My husband can tell you this. When me and my husband started dating, I was really in the full realization of who I was, fully aware of myself at this point. And I told him, look, here is me. I laid it all out. This is me.
Right.
Don't put me on a pedestal because I will disappoint you. Don't. Here is everything. If you can deal with this, let's move forward. If you can't, no hard feelings, let's. And that is big. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people can't do that because, again, a lot of people don't want people to see their ugly parts. I want you to
Right.
see all of my ugly parts because if you cannot handle me at ugly, when I am
Yeah.
beautiful, you don't deserve me.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
for me,
And it's a process.
right, it is a process. And so for me, the last tip is one of the things that I have to do as well. I stopped doing the what ifs because every decision I made has led me here. And I
Hmm.
also realized that there are things that I would have changed that still wouldn't have led to a different outcome. You understand
Right.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That is something else that you have to understand. Sometimes the changes you could go back in time and make a change, but it's not going to lead to a different outcome. Or it could lead to a worse outcome. I think
Mm.
people tend to think that, well, what if I would have made this decision?
Right.
What if I would have done that? You think there would have been an alternative outcome.
Right.
There would have been an alternative outcome, but you don't know if that alternative outcome would have been better.
Right.
You
So there's
don't
like people
know.
that may been like, I was supposed to be in that car
Yes.
that day. Case of
Yes.
like, what movie was that? Bronx Tale.
Yeah.
And what's his name? Cologino was supposed to
Yeah.
be in the car, and whoever came and got him, whatever, Sonny, came and
Mhm.
got him out the car of the foolishness, and
Yeah.
that car blew up and everybody died. And it
Right.
was like, that could have been me.
Right.
So that is a very astute observation that it could have gone
It could have
left.
gone left. You don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Okay. Case in point. I left the law school I was at in New York and did this thing called visiting student status, right? Where I went to Pitt for my last year of law school.
Mhm.
And I initially was like, oh, I should have stayed in New York. What if I would have just stayed in New York? What would have happened? Well, I could have been in the towers when it got hit because I used to take the train
Mhm.
from where I lived, Staten Island, through the World Trade Center to walk to school. I
Right.
knew people I know a girl who, one of my classmates, got hit with the debris because she was
Mhm.
coming out when the first plane hit.
Right.
Do you understand?
Mhm.
You don't know what what if would have garnered you a better outcome. Yeah, you could have gone to Harvard for a fellowship, but maybe there was a car accident waiting to happen for you there. You don't know.
Yeah.
So changing an outcome doesn't always mean that something is going to be better. And sometimes you have to say, what if? Well, what if? Yeah, well, what if? What if could have been better? It
Yeah.
could have been worse.
It could have been worse. It could have been worse.
What if I didn't buy the house when I bought the house? Well, bitch, you could be homeless.
Ha. That part.
You don't know. So why even sit and do that? Play that game.
Right.
Why play that game? What if I would have stayed and moved back to such and such? You
Yeah.
could have moved back, but you might not have met your husband. You might not have had that child.
Right. Living in what ifs and woulda, coulda,
Well,
shouldas just will
well,
suck the life out of you.
woulda, coulda, shoulda, woulda, coulda, shoulda your ass to depression and anxiety.
That part. That part right there. But it
I
comes
just
with
don't subscribe to.
acceptance.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that no one should ever have that because we're all gonna have that because we're human. But
Yeah.
don't let it dictate your life because it will ruin you.
Mhm. It will. And take over.
And I don't want that for anybody because regrets are one of those things that I've seen physically with my own two eyes have a negative impact on people and they don't even know it. They don't even
Yeah.
see it for themselves. And I'd be like, "Ooh, you don't even see it, do you,
Because they're
baby?
caught up in it.
You don't
And
even
there's a
see it."
lack of self awareness.
Lack. There are a lot of people with a lot of lack of self-awareness up in this motherfucker, okay? I'ma tell you, this world is full of people with a lack of self-awareness.
Church tabernacle, pass the plate.
So, but with that, we're gonna go take a quick break and come back with our last sip of tea for the day. And we are back. The last sip of tea is, like Jay-Z said, sometimes you just gotta learn to live with regret.
Prophetic.
I'm just saying, okay? Like, just, and it's not even learning how to live with it, it's learning how to move forward.
Yes.
You should always be going forward, never going back
To the best of your ability.
to the best of your ability. Because
Sometimes,
it's
'cause we,
hard out here for a pimp.
sometimes you be backsliding and you just like, damn it, here we go again.
Here we go again.
Exactly. But that's life, because life be life.
Yeah.
But don't beat yourself up about it.
Yep. But that's it. That's the last sip of tea.
Alrighty, all right. So thank you again for joining us this week on Sippin' Tea with Nat and Z. As you know, you can follow us on Instagram at Sippin' Tea Nat and Z _pod and on Facebook Sippin' Tea Nat and Z. Get info about upcoming podcast topics, guests, and news. And thanks for listening. Catch us next episode where we get into resentment, which ties in very well with what we're talking about today. So be good with y'all. Don't be regretful this week.
Make smart choices.
Make good choices.